Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have what I believe to be a really exciting and extremely important video for you guys and for any future exchange students, and it is how to deal with your host family. So I've already made one or two videos about kind of tips for future host families. However, I also feel like it's extremely important for me to talk to the future exchange students as well and to kind of give you guys some tips on how to deal with your host family so you can do your part in making this experience the best it can be as well. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. So your relationship with your host family is going to be a really special relationship, but especially in the beginning it is super delicate because you are a new person that they don't know much about, coming into their family, living in their home, and trying to become part of their family, and that takes a lot of time, a lot of trust, a lot of work from both sides. There are just some tips that I can give in hindsight on how you can probably work on improving this relationship, on making everything a bit more smooth sailing, and on making sure that both parties feel super comfortable in this new living arrangement and in this new family construction. So my first tip would be to be very aware of your relationship with your host family. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that they essentially don't know you at all. You are a stranger coming into their lives very suddenly, moving into their home, trying to be a puzzle piece that fits into, their whole picture as a family and culture and everything. So just be aware of the fact that you are strangers. You are supposed to be family, but you aren't there yet, especially in the beginning. It's going to take a lot of time to kind of build this relationship. It's most likely not something that is going to be there on day one. So be aware of the fact that you are, two parties that are strangers to each other and you need to grow together, but that takes time and work. The second thing that you need to be extremely aware of with your relationship to your host parents is that you need to know that they are responsible for you. Your parents at home gave you away to this other family thousands of miles away. They entrusted you to them and put, your whole life and well-being essentially in strangers' hands. So your host family is going to feel an extremely huge responsibility to make sure you're okay and that you're safe and that you're happy. And so you need to, as an exchange student, work as hard as possible on making them feel comfortable and on helping them fulfill kind of this responsibility. That's really important. So in order to do that, you need to try and communicate as openly as you can. So whenever you're not at home, let them know where you are or who you're with. Just, shoot them a text here and there and update them on what your plans are, what you're doing, especially in the first couple of weeks when they don't maybe know your friends so well yet, maybe they don't know you well enough yet. So just, keep an open communication, make them feel safe, and never put them in a situation where they don't know where you are, who you're with, what you're doing, and they just don't know if you're living or dead right now. Just, kind of set your personal boundaries, but also kind of make them feel comfortable and help them fulfill their responsibility of protecting you. But, at the same time, be aware of the fact that you are allowed to set your own personal boundaries. So if your host family is asking you to keep a tracker on your phone, which allows them to see your exact location 24/7, that might be overstepping a boundary for you. Or if they ask you to keep your door like extremely completely open, that might be overstepping a boundary for you. I know a lot of American host families will ask you to keep your door a crack wide open, which, if that's rules that apply, to their kids as well, I think that might be fine. However, they don't need to be able to see you full on the whole day. Talk to them nicely about, certain boundaries. They should be made to feel very comfortable, but also you need to be somewhat comfortable as well. So if there's something on either side that makes one party feel extremely uncomfortable, you need to be able to talk about this. My next tip is to respect the fact that you are living in their space. So as an exchange student, host families will open up their hearts and their home to you, which means that you will usually share a room or be given a room to yourself yourself in their home. The first tip I would give you is to be very aware that this is their space and that you are just, you know, living in it for a while. So definitely try to keep your room extremely clean because it is their space after all. Don't alter your room too much, you know, don't ask them to change, you know, the wall color, or don't hang up, you know, pieces which means that there's a permanent hole in the wall. Just try to keep it as much to their taste as possible. Obviously you can, you know, put picture frames up or maybe decorate it in non-permanent ways that kind of suit your style, but be aware that after all it is their space, so take good care of it and don't put anything in there that is going to kind of ruin it or change it or alter it permanently. Also, you should consider that you are a new component in their life, but kind of try and not alter their rhythm or their mode of living too much. So if they are used to going to bed really early, try and make sure that you don't listen to loud music at night. If they get up really early, you know, try not to get too annoyed at that. You are a new piece in the family puzzle and you kind of have to adjust to this. There are going to be things that they do that you're not used to. There are going to be things, you know, that create tensions, but talk about these things. It is a big challenge to kind of fit into another family's like rhythm of life. Just kind of try and be sensible and respect other people's modes of living, I guess. Also, what you should do really early on is to ask your family whether there are any pre-existing house rules that you should follow or rules that they put on their kids and whether you should follow them as well. Connected to that, also ask what chores you can do around the house, whether that is just taking care of your own stuff, so cleaning your room and doing your own laundry, which is kind of what it was like for me, or whether you actually participate in bigger house tasks like vacuuming the living room or putting dishes away, washing dishes, all that fun stuff. You need to just, you know, do your part and kind of do a bit of household work as well, and try to just, you know, whenever you see maybe the dishes need to be unloaded from the dishwasher, just do it without being asked. That's just a really nice gesture and it's really going to help you out in the long run. So, you know, whenever you see there's work that needs to be done and you know how to do it, then just do it. If you don't know how to do it, maybe just ask your host family, and yeah, that's gonna really just show that you put in effort into this relationship and that you're just being considerate and kind. My third tip is to manage your expectations. This is a general rule for all exchange students and should be kind of an integral part, especially of the early stages of every single exchange year. But when it comes to your host family, it is really important to manage your expectations in the way that you realize you are strangers and that it is very unlikely that you are going to be super close right away. So just be aware of the fact that getting close and becoming a part of the family needs a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of work, and it is probably going to take months. It is very unlikely that you are going to feel 100% part of the family, you know, right from the get-go. And you might never feel 100% part of the family because it is not your natural family, but just remember that you do have a family, you know, your natural family to fall back on, and this is just an added bonus, and it's definitely a beautiful relationship that you can create, but don't try to force it from day one. Just kind of put effort into it and build it naturally, and just give yourself a bit of time and just be patient, and it is going to, you know, the bond is going to grow over time. But don't, you know, go straight into it thinking that you are going to be extremely close from day one. That might happen, but in most cases it really takes a lot of time and effort. At the same time, you should also let them know if they did something that hurt you or upset you, or if you need more attention. It's definitely something that host families need to be aware of, that a new exchange student takes a lot of time, and in some ways it is like a puppy. We can go to the bathroom by ourselves, but we don't know where stuff is, how to do certain things, and it just takes a lot of assistance, especially in the first couple weeks and months. There are just so many things that they are going to need help with. Just, you know, let your host family know, because a lot of the time it's just their day-to-day life. They know where everything is, they know how most things work, so for them, they might not see, you know, certain issues that you're facing. So you definitely need to make them aware of the fact that you might need more assistance than they expected in certain areas, or you might just need more time and attention because you feel really lonely. Just communicate your feelings, let them know if there's anything they can do for you, and you can surely figure it out. My last tip is to find out about kind of their opinions, whether that is political opinions or religious opinions, for example. That is just going to help you out a lot in conversation and in guiding your behavior. I was in a small town in Texas, so religion definitely played a huge role, and political opinions were quite strong, so there's a lot of room for kind of awkward situations if you don't really know what your host family's beliefs are. So it makes it just so much easier to have open conversations about it, kind of figure out where they stand, and then kind of adapt the way you speak or what you say kind of to that, so as to not start like huge conversations, especially in the beginning when you kind of don't know each other that well yet. I know it is a lot easier when you're quite young. I was 15, I didn't really care about politics back then, so it was a whole different situation. I never really talked about these topics, but if you know that, you know, you are like into this kind of thing, or if you just, with the religious thing especially, because my host family practiced a lot more, you know, religion than I was used to from back home. That's just, I think, kind of a regional but also like a country difference. Germans tend to not practice religion as much. Yeah, try to talk to them about it and kind of get into the conversation, because the conversation itself is interesting, but also they can tell you a lot about how to maybe behave in church, for example, because that might be an environment that you've never really been in before, or at least not in this capacity. So from a personal experience, I would definitely recommend just talking everything through, because if you don't, then you're gonna have to do the trial and error thing where you just say a lot of awkward things or do a lot of awkward things and you find out later on that that was actually wrong. Whereas if you just talk about it, maybe there are going to be a lot of mistakes that you could avoid making just by having an open conversation about these topics that are probably going to be really important to them. In order to facilitate this conversation, it is really important for you to continually making them aware that you are from a different cultural background and that you might have been raised very differently from the way they raised their kids or from the way they've been raised. They obviously know that you're coming from a different country, but they might not be aware just of how you were raised or how your culture sort of works. So definitely just explain where you're coming from to them. And if you're, for example, coming from a family that doesn't really practice religion, just be like, hey, this is like totally new territory for me. Please give me the 101 on religion, for example, or on church, or how to behave and everything like that. Just ask millions of questions. That's always better than doing something that might be offensive because you didn't know. So just, you know, communicate openly and make them aware of the fact that you're kind of starting from scratch here and they just need to kind of guide you with these topics. So those were all of my most important tips for future exchange students on how to deal with your host family. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to continue keeping up with my content, please hit the notification bell as well as the subscribe button. If you want me to continue doing more of these how to deal with your host family videos, I definitely have some more ideas, so please leave that down in the comments below. Also, if you have any other questions or topics you would like to see me talk about, also leave that down in the comments below. And that leaves me with nothing else to say but to thank you guys so much for watching, and see you in my next one. Bye!